This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reif Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
You know, we talk about game ones, and it's kind of, you want to get that game one, because it's the feel out period, but then you start to get to know each other a bit, and, now adjustments are being made in the series just to kind of, give your team an edge. And yeah, we had a great overtime. There's no question. I actually didn't mind, most of our third too, or second half of our third. But that's not going to guarantee future success. There's a mentality there as well. And I just thought we were a driven group, didn't want to go down 0-2, and, fortunately they got it done.
Yeah, they're a driven group. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Greg, after game one, we had a fan write in and say, the national media has latched onto the narrative about the Lightning's struggles at home in the playoffs. It's like, okay, well, understood. These things happen. The media is looking for storylines. So after game two, the narrative has shifted now that the Lightning are the quote-unquote, cue the song, bad boys, right? And Coop did little to kind of change the narrative. He's like, yeah, great, or something. We'll embrace it. And the players are saying the same. I mentioned on, I think, yesterday's show, look, are the Lightning not backing down? They are not. But I'm not certain that they are the ones stirring the pot in all of these different situations with different teams. They were certainly reactive to the Panthers in the preseason based on what A.J. Greer did to Brandon Hagel. To some extent, they were reactive to the Sabres based on what Rasmus Dahlin did to several of their players. And I'm not sure if it was as direct a correlation, but there is no doubt that Josh Anderson started a lot of this in the final regular season game when he tried to get under the skin of Kucherov. Yeah. So does that make the Lightning the bad boys? I mean, they're certainly responding, right? And maybe I'm not seeing it as clearly as some other people, but that has definitely been the narrative in the last 36 hours.
We got some questions pertaining to that. I mean, maybe when you're kind of in the bubble a little bit, covering specifically one team, you don't look at necessarily what all of the national media is.
And I acknowledge that.
Team.
They may have a point that I'm missing, right?
So maybe it's the most, penalized team in the league, and then some of the rough stuff. Maybe there's that narrative coming in.
So that part is tied to the physical play because, they're not the most shorthanded team in the NHL.
Yeah, but bad boys...
There's a difference. But yes, they've gotten a lot of penalty minutes through fights and misconducts and stuff like that.
I guess, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily look, when they had Douglas and Sabrin on the team, were people saying the same thing? I think they were trying to a degree, address a specific team who they felt crossed the line in the Florida Panthers. Yeah. And to your point, the Lightning aren't going to back down. So I don't know. I think these are things that people conjure up to have a narrative. I don't think the Lightning are, anywhere close to the Detroit Pistons of the 1980s.
No, or the Panthers for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I don't think that. But
what the difference is, and so let me just touch on this because we brought it up. The difference to me between the Panthers the last 2 years, where they've won cups, playing this way, and what we've seen from the Lightning this year, we're not seeing the Lightning get hit with a bunch of 5-minute majors for hits from behind or sucker punches.
Right.
There haven't been a lot of plays where there is a question mark about, will the DOPS suspend this player? The Lightning have had some, just like all teams have had some. But that was kind of a recurring narrative with the Panthers, I think. What the Lightning have showed is, and the Panthers did this too, but the Lightning are saying, if you target one of our players, you're going to have to answer for that.
Yeah.
That is not going to go without a response.
No.
Well, we may initiate making some of your players uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that and slamming a guy face first into the glass and getting a major, right?
Yeah. If people want to look at what Sabin was trying to do for Anderson, or with Anderson last game, trying to get
not
him to
the
go.
late penalty. You're talking about earlier in the game.
Yeah, the very first shift Sabin had him, and he went right up to Anderson and said, do you want to go? Let's go.
Right.
And it didn't happen. So I know Coop was asked that question about Sabrin being in the lineup, and Coop kind of, I think, gave a politically correct answer about what some things Sabrin does for the team. Guys
he
are
kept
a little
lid
braver
on it for 58 minutes.
Yeah, so I mean, but that doesn't put them in that category, in my opinion. And I think there's been some other series that have been nastier. That
I put on the Flyers Penguins game. I mean, I didn't have the whole game on, but I turned it on.
Yeah.
In my hotel room, just as they had a big brouhaha early in the second period. And that was a similar situation to some of the other things that we've seen happen with the Lightning in games this year. Not so much in the playoffs, although we had a little bit of a delay in game 2 when they were figuring out the one where Perry got the extra penalty. This was a very long delay. This is one of those where the referees had like the paper out with the pencil. They're writing down numbers, and they put
I don't know why
every
they
player
that
on
out.
the ice, other than the goalies, every player on the ice went into the penalty box, and it must have taken, 10, 15 minutes for them to figure this out.
It kind of changed a little
But
bit.
it was an ugly
game.
situation, and I mean, the Flyers scored. They got a power play out of it. So the Penguins got the extra penalty. Flyers scored, tied the game, and won, and then they were off and rolling.
Yeah. So I think some of this is just playoffs, too. I wouldn't equate to anything bad.
But
Boys
do you
again,
think we're
that narrative.
seeing more, I'll just say it, more fights in this year's playoff than maybe in years past already?
I don't know. Do we have a number?
I don't remember seeing a lot of fights in the playoffs. I remember watching a replay of the 1980 Stanley Cup Final Game 6, which the Islanders beat the Flyers in overtime. They won their first Stanley Cup of 4 straight.
Yeah.
And this was obviously, a close game. It went to overtime. It was tied, probably 10 minutes left in the third, and there was a fight. Like, two guys fought. I mean, it wasn't a brawl. It wasn't like everybody, but I'm trying to remember. Chief would probably remember because he was covering the Flyers at that time. Might have been John Paddock for the Flyers. I can't remember who on the Islanders fought, but I saw this and I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
I mean,
what's happening?
It was just shocking to me, and this was a while ago. This was like one of these classic games I happened upon. I'm like, "Oh, Game 6, the 80 Finals. Let's see what happened here." And I was like, "There's a fight in the third period of a tie game."
Yeah, right.
With 10 minutes left, and there was. And I was surprised to see that, which kind of tells me that my brain was thinking, you're not seeing fights. I mean, we had LeCavalier and Iginla in Game 3 of the Lightning Calgary series.
That was pretty epic. That was pretty epic.
That was early in the game, though.
Yeah,
it was early in the game.
Right.
It was in the first period, for sure. Anyway.
We had Stahl and Kachuk.
That was right off the face-off at the beginning
of
of Game 1, but we've seen other fights that were more organic, like the Rust-Konecny situation last night that kind of started that whole situation, even if there weren't actual fights called. But anyway.
Maybe. I don't know.
We digress a little bit. Coop answered the question in the clip. The question was something that you posed on yesterday's show, which is, can the Lightning carry over what they did well in the overtime to Game 3? And I kind of feel like that was its own entity in that game. The series was 1-0 Montreal at that point. Next goal wins. We're just in a different situation now. It's a 1-1. The Canadians are home. They didn't just see a lead evaporate. They're not within a game where, as I said on yesterday's show, they could have been up by multiple goals after 2 periods. There was an emotional dynamic to the overtime in Game 2 that is different now. It just is.
Yeah.
Not to say that this game won't have emotion. And if you heard Coop's answer, he kind of said the same thing. He was happy with the overtime for sure, but he's also like, teams make adjustments. I mean, he answered the question in a way that leads me to believe he's expecting this is just going to start a new chapter in the series. And one storyline that we will be paying attention to is, and Coop was asked this question as well by Pierre LeBrun, who was very focused on the Cirelli-Suzuki matchup. Who will Marty St. Louis put Suzuki's line out against? He controls the matchup for Game 3 and Game 4 when he wants Suzuki's line out there after a whistle. So will he just say to Suzuki and company, you're getting Cirelli, do better? It's become a storyline in the series.
Yeah.
I mean, that they're asking Suzuki and Caulfield about it. It's like, what do you need to do more 5-on-5? I thought that they actually they did well when the Canadiens did well in Game 2. I thought they were pulling on the rope. I mean, they didn't get anything to show for it, and they're minus in the series, even strength. I think they were a -6 in Game 2, combined, the three players. But Marty has the matchup, control here. So will he say, go against Cirelli's line, which may have Kucherov on it, or will he say, I want Suzuki's line against not a potential Selke candidate?
Yeah.
Which is his choice. Some coaches are like, I want my best players to rise to the occasion. Other coaches are like, I'm going to look to exploit a matchup here and see how that plays out.
Part of me says, isn't that what coaching is about? I mean, if there's one job a coach has, to a degree, getting your team prepared to play, but some of that is also exploiting matchups or mismatches. I mean, why else would you have a coach? Your job is to look at all this film. You're seeing the game the way it's being played. How can you give your team an advantage? If that means you've got to get the Suzuki line away from Cirelli's line, of course you would do that. I understand the ego involved, and maybe that's the wrong word, where, hey, best on best, go figure it out.
Right.
Okay, so maybe there is strategy involved there, but if they're struggling through 2 games, I would think part of your responsibility as a coach is to put your players in the best position to be successful. And in this particular instance, maybe you do have to get them away at times.
And
Maybe
that's
not
the
whole
key
game,
at times. So there are other components here. Remember, we talked about the question Pierre LeBrun asked Coop after Game 1, before Game 2, about why did you pick Cirelli's line to be the matchup line for you against Suzuki's line? Is it because, in part, Suzuki's line plays so much? And Coop said, yes. So he wants Cirelli's line to be out as much as possible against Suzuki's line, and Cirelli's line can handle the high minutes. Some first lines play a little bit less than others. Marty likes playing the Suzuki line a lot. I mean, they play power play, of course, and they play a lot of power play. They play a lot of 5-on-5. So when you said at times, yes. I mean, if Marty is going to go into Game 3 and say, all right, let's just say for the sake of argument, I want the Suzuki line against Gergensons, Sabrin, and Perry, if that is a line for the Lightning. Well, if he's going to wait for Gergensons, Sabrin, and Perry to come over the boards to put Suzuki's line out there, Suzuki's line's not going to play as much as they normally would, or, in fact, as much as the Canadiens want them to play. So Marty may just be like, I'm going to play, he may say, I'm just going to play Suzuki's line a lot, and they get who they get. The other component to this is Kucherov. So the Canadiens are also aware that the most dangerous offensive player on the Lightning, at least through Game 2, third period and overtime, and if Coop keeps the lines the same, it'll be for Game 3, Kucherov is on the Cirelli line. So you're the Canadiens, you have to be mindful about, who are we putting out against Cirelli's line because Kucherov is there, right? Maybe he wants Suzuki's line to get that assignment. Suzuki's line had a great year offensively and defensively. They were some of the best plus-minus figures on Montreal. I mean, they have defensive guys like Evans and Deno, and they actually play in the same line. But again, if you're gonna try and get Evans out there every time Kucherov is out there, Evans is gonna play more probably than the Canadiens ideally would want him to play. Not just for him, but also it takes minutes away from the Suzukis, the Caulfields, the Slavkovskis. So that's some of the coaching machinations that go on, and we kind of got a feel for what was going to happen when the Lightning had home ice, and the Lightning were pretty married to that matchup.
Yeah.
Let's see what the Canadiens decide to do.
At Bullets Radio, if you want to get involved in the conversation, you can. I say today
Lightning
we
are
open
going
up
to take
questions.
the ice, by the way, in 15 minutes. Sorry, Greg.
Okay.
But they did come out at 11:30 with Harrison Menigan, who was called up as
He's going to start?
Halverson is going to join the Crunch.
Yeah,
they start their
that
playoff
makes sense.
series in Cleveland tomorrow, best of 5, first 2 in Cleveland.
Go do your
Even though
thing.
the Crunch have home ice, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not surprised by that, but it was Menigan, Hedman, and Destu. So the other thing that came out of the press conference that Coop had yesterday, Destu is on the mend.
Yeah.
So that was more of a we'll see. Maybe this extra day, because today is an extra day between games 2 and 3, will help Destu. Although the fact that he was out there for basically 45 minutes with Hedman would lead me to believe it's unlikely that he's going to participate in the regular practice. We'll wait and see. We'll be on the air when the team hits the ice. He also talked about, he said Hedman would be on the trip, which he is.
That's good to see. Good to see, by the way. I mean,
yes. And then he was asked about Holmberg, and he said Holmberg is, weeks. So he's like, not for the series. We'd have to get through the series. But look, I mean, we didn't really ever get an exact timeline. And if it's possible, if the Lightning can get through the series, I think we may see Holmberg in the second-round series.
I mean,
a second-round series.
We just know it's upper body.
That would be better. Yeah, that would be better than he's basically out until if the Lightning managed to get all the way into the fourth round or something, we would see him back. So
what a just fluky thing for him.
Yeah, it really.
I mean, it just stinks for him. But look, that's part of injuries and.
He is a guy who does have playoff experience, too, because he spent those years in Toronto.
I mean, I think it's safe to say he was having his best year as a professional at the NHL level with the Tampa Bay Lightning. In terms of the role, how much success he was having, I mean, he was part of a really important line.
Yeah.
So, hopefully he comes back, and that would mean the Lightning are playing well into the playoffs. Let's get to some of these questions, partner, because we didn't get a chance to get to many of them yesterday. Thomas from Lutz, a lot of the national media are labeling us a dirty team. Am I missing something? Seems to me the Habs are started more than half after all these whistle scrums.
Well, we kind of addressed that right at the top of the show.
But you can
tell.
The
national media is gonna latch on to what they latch on to, and the fact that the Lightning aren't bringing up the points that I brought up, maybe they don't want to. Look, I'm telling you how I see it. I think the Lightning have given, but they've gotten two. Thomas is right. These are scrums, and in a number of them, it does seem like not as much in game two, but in some of the, certainly the game that we had here at the Bell Center near the end of the regular season, a lot of the scrums, the Lightning got the extra two.
Yeah.
It did happen with the Perry situation in game two, but Jack-I got an extra two in an earlier scrum in game two.
I saw a clip.
And also, let's qualify like dirty team. A dirty team would be a team that is committing major penalties and looking to basically put guys on the other team into a situation where they may get injured. If you are going to be tough, I mean, is that dirty? I don't know. I'm not sure that I've heard dirty. I think that they have the reputation as you said, the bad boys.
I saw a clip of Pierre Maguire on X the other day, and he basically, the soundbite was that to the extent that it makes sense, Jack-I has not been unleashed yet. And so when he becomes unleashed, look out.
Yeah, so I mean, does Jack-I want to go ballistic and pick a fight and get a penalty? And also, I think the Canadians would like Jack-I on the ice.
Yeah, I mean,
so I think Jack-I understands. Like, if it reaches a point, yes, he will do what he needs to do. But I mean, let's be honest. Jack-I took two bad penalties in game two. He got an extra two in a scrum, and that was one that I saw. The referee was standing right next to Jack-I and Gord. And I could almost see the referee saying, enough. And then Jack-I did something. He pointed at Jack-I. So Jack-I crossed the line there. And then, I don't know if it was because it was Gord that was called for the penalty at the end of the first period, or Jack-I was just steamed about that extra two. I don't know. The Canadians are entering the second period. They think they have a power play, and then the power play is wiped away because Jack-I mouthed off to the official and got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. So Jack-I already has taken a couple of penalties that, I mean, the Lightning didn't score on the power play, nor did the Lightning score in the 4-on-4. But the Canadians got taken off the power play at the beginning of the second period. So let's just say these were unnecessary penalties. I mean, I understand what Pierre Maguire here is saying, but like, if you're Jack-I, it's the same thing we said about Sabrin. Like, you want to be aggressive, you want to be physical, you want to be tough, you want to stand up for your teammates, but you don't want to put your team short unnecessarily.
Well, and if you're Jack-I, this code in hockey, heavyweights fight heavyweights. The the smaller guys fight the smaller guys. I mean, who is Jack Guy going to fight outside of Sabrin? Really,
Yeah.
that's considered in the same weight class. So
Well, he was ready to fight Gordon.
yeah, and I would say
Yeah.
to that, like, Yanni, back away. Like, I mean, you wouldn't.
Right.
That's a big time mismatch where somebody's going to get punished, most likely.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, the questions revolved around, are the Lightning dirty? I mean, basically, are the Lightning different than other teams? The Lightning
No,
are
I don't think
playing
so.
tougher
Yeah.
in terms of physical post-whistle stuff than probably they did last year. But I will point out in that situation where Perry got the extra 2, I mean, we did see a Canadiens player. Matheson was involved with Radish, and a Canadiens player grabbed Radish, and Matheson was able to get punches in on Radish. That, to me, is more dirty than what Brandon Hagel did to Slavkovsky, where Hagel was like, are we going? We're going?
Well, they
We're
fought.
going?
Yeah, there's no dirty
Yeah.
in the fight.
And they
Like,
both dropped
let's
the
go.
gloves, and Hagel punched
There
him.
you go.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. That's
Yeah.
that's hockey.
Right.
You know, me taking a stick to the back of your leg when you're not looking,
Right.
and hurting you, or doing something like that. The Panthers were more egregious
Right.
in doing
And look,
things
the
like
Sabres
that.
fans were upset with Hagel when he kind of didn't do that with Dahlin. Like, he did punch Dahlin with the glove on, which is what happened to him
Sure.
with A.J. Greer.
Yeah.
But in this series, I'm not sure the Lightning have done anything that you would say, like, crossed the line or anything like that. It's just been a physical, emotional, hard-fought, literally, series so far. Both games have gone into overtime. It's been as close as you can get. Both teams have had points where they've really controlled play. So, and we're only 2 games in.
Should be fun tomorrow.
Yeah. Lightning are starting to take the ice, by the way.
Okay. Adam says that Gage, Gordon, James line Coop had in overtime looked great. Not sure if he'll keep it because I don't know how the rest of the lineup adjusts, but love them together very fast. What do you make?
Well,
of that
they
part?
were, and I think the rest of the lineup might adjust exactly how the Lightning had it in overtime. When or if they run the lines today, I'll put on my other glasses because I can't
check
see
it out
from all the way up here. I've got my See Greg glasses, not my See the Ice glasses. But
that line has, you know what that line has? They can all skate
yeah,
for the most part.
and
There's
they
a-
did skate.
Yeah, and there's
And
a
they did
tenacity.
skate.
Yeah, there's
Right.
a tenacious part to their game that makes them harder to play against. So that's interesting. So maybe that does happen. Basil says, I expect this team to play better and better as the series progresses. They make good adjustments and they learn. 86 especially.
Well, we'll see, Basil. I mean, again, that's why you play the series. Series, like plural series, any playoff series, is a series of kind of call and response or statement and response. So sometimes the team that makes a statement makes another statement. Sometimes the team that makes one statement, the opposition has a response.
Yes.
And how is that response going to go? So we don't know if the Lightning are going to get better and better as the series progresses. The Canadiens may have a pushback tonight, and this may be a navigate through that for the Lightning. It's kind of like a tug-of-war, right, going back and forth. I do want to address this Kucherov thing because I saw John Romano had a story about Kucherov snapping his playoff goal drought. I don't know if this was, wearing on Kucherov or, bothering him in some way that he had gone 16 playoff games without a goal. I was quick to point out, and John did put this in the column, but it was almost like a disclaimer at the end of the column after he made this whole point about the Lightning Kucherov must score. The record when Kucherov scores a goal in the playoffs is far better than when he doesn't, regardless of whether he had an assist. And then at the end, he's like, he has been a point-per-game guy during this time with assists. So I'm like, all right, he's producing a point per game over these last 3 playoff years plus the 2 games this year. But if, in fact, he was bothered, if that's the right word, or annoyed, or snake-bitten that he hadn't scored, maybe this goal in Game 2 will help him. And if that's the case, great for the Lightning.
Even if you want to say the Kucherov is more of a playmaker than a goal scorer, as I've said this before, guys like to score goals.
Sure.
So, I know he was a point-per-game guy. He was being productive, but I'm sure that weighs on you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think what I took more from Game 2 was more of what you said during the broadcast. That if they get this W, does it settle them down a little bit more for Game 3 and the rest of the series?
Right. Well, especially at home.
Yes.
Last year they got outplayed in the first 2 games against the Panthers, especially in Game 1, but also in Game 2. They were going into Game 3 without Hagel, who was suspended, and they played well in Game 3. The Panthers, they needed a very good goaltending performance from Vasilevsky early in that game, which they got, but, that was their one win in the series. So even last year where, let's be honest, they got outplayed in that series, they were able to play pretty well on the road. I really felt that getting a little bit off the schneid at home and in overtime, we were saying it when they were down at home. We didn't know Game 2 was going into overtime yet. But getting the win at home in overtime, I think will help them moving forward at home.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
But being on the road, they've had just different experiences these last few years.
Jake says, if we don't have Holmberg, I'll take the line of James, Gord, and Gonsalves. Yeah.
Well, they showed well, and this is not being a prisoner of the moment, which has kind of become our term for the playoffs, certainly. But if they are going to play like they did, like they played so well in overtime especially, but also in the third period, you're going to come back with them to see if they can do it again. I'm saying that before they run the lines. Maybe they won't, but I would see no reason to break them up based on how well they played, down the stretch in Game 2.
Can you yell down
the Canadians, I think, were a little like, wait a minute, what is going on? Like, James hasn't skated like this.
Yeah.
James missed the last 2 games against the Canadians.
Well, even in Game 1, I remember Eric saying in between the periods of one of the intermission reports, he just doesn't look himself out there.
Yeah.
And look, maybe he realized, look, I got through that game. I'm okay. And I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And now it's more just reacting. Jason says, national media also talking on how Montreal isn't being intimidated and Tampa trying too hard bullying. Thoughts on this? It feels more like the, quote, look in the eye and outlast the opponent, end quote. Coburn mentioned.
So, I don't know. This is how you frame it. Montreal isn't being intimidated, but the Lightning aren't being intimidated either. Are the Lightning bullying? The Lightning are doing some trash talking. That's true. Perry is a chirper. Hagel is a chirper. We saw that. But every team has players who chirp.
Yeah.
Teams like to have players on their team who chirp. I think it adds. Maroon was a chirper. I think when Maroon left the Lightning, there was a little bit of a missing element there, right? That adds some juice to the bench, to the locker room, to some of these altercations on the ice. So look, the national media is going to write what they're going to write. I think that this has been a both teams have given, both teams have gotten to this point in the series. And if that is being framed as, well, the Canadians aren't being intimidated, but the Lightning are these bullies, that's not entirely true.
Yeah.
Who has had the player injured in the series based on a bad hit? Which team has had a player knocked out of the series due to a bad hit? The Lightning. The Lightning lost S2 because of an Anderson hit. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's saying, well, the Lightning might be the bullies, but have any Canadians been hit to the point that they got knocked out of the series?
Right.
Temporarily. Fortunately, it looks like Destu is, on the mend, but that was the worst hit in the series. It wasn't even close. He hit him in the head. He knocked him out of Game 1. He hasn't played since.
For sure. No, I would agree.
So why is that not targeting? Why is that not being a bully?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's a good question. I think every team in the playoffs right now.
This is the point. I'm not saying that the Canadians are that way. I'm just saying, if you get locked into a narrative, examine the narrative.
I think every team.
It's just easier to be like, ooh, Bad Boys Lightning. Cooper has this quote. Hagel has this quote.
Well, that's
et cetera, et cetera. Let's go with it, right?
Yeah. Everybody's tough in the playoffs. I don't think anybody has to answer for how they handle themselves when you get some pushback in a very intense part of the season, which is the playoffs. We've talked about that before. Spectre says, will we ever see Geeky centering Point and Gensel? Are you talking about in this series?
I mean, right now, Geeky has to get back in the lineup.
Yeah, I would say no.
The Lightning had a winning lineup in Game 2 without Geeky, so, I mean, unless something weird happens, I would be surprised if they make it. I shouldn't say I would be surprised if they make a change. I have no idea if they're going to make a change. Maybe as the road team, John Cooper wants to make a change. But the Lightning won Game 2 without Geeky in the lineup. So, I mean, you can kind of connect the dots there that first things first, he has to get back in the lineup. And then you're talking about putting him into a top 6. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just say I would be surprised if we see that right away. Maybe if Geeky's in a game and the game is unfolding in a way where Coop is like, I need to mix things up here. All right, Geeks, you're going to go on this line. Let's see how you do. Kind of like the Gord Gonçalves James line was put together. Maybe that's how you would reach that kind of endpoint.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Let's go to Dan. Not sure the Lightning are the bad boys. They have finally decided they are standing up. In previous years, we've been a smaller, quicker team that took it. Standing up now makes us bad boys, I guess. I don't know about that. Even when they had Maroon and Shen and Bogosian, that to me felt more like, if you want to have a narrative of some bad boys, you've got 3 big dudes who can throw them down that were like, all right, we're going to police this. And we give the famous example of the Islanders series. But to me, that would make more sense than that narrative that's being thrown around today. Space says, Tampa is doing what they need to win. Thank the Avs. Thank the Rangers. Thank the Bruins. Thank Florida. Thank Boston.
Well, I mean, those are teams that played I mean, I don't know if all those teams played a certain way against the Lightning. It's not like the Lightning were like shrinking wallflowers when they were going deep in the in the playoffs. You just mentioned some of their tough guys. Yeah. I think last year, though, the Panthers played a certain way. I mean, it wasn't just Hagel. Like, Gergensen's got his face rammed into the dasher by Mikkola. I mean, there was other stuff that happened. I did switch my glasses, so I'm going to try and assess who is out there for the Lightning and who is playing together. So I do see James with Sabrin and Perry. So at least that's how they're running
the lines right now.
Well, that's one line that I see that's out there right now.
Partner, can you yell down and see if we can get a response?
I should be able to see at this point.
Yeah.
Especially when they're so I'm kind of in an end zone. So when they're closer to me, that does become a little easier.
All right.
And so I see here Geeky, Bjorkstrand, and Gord, which is probably an indication like Gord is not going to, like, those are the 2 extras probably. Gotcha. And Yanni is just taking a turn with them. So
all right.
That's my guess.
Well,
so if that's the case, James goes back to the line with Sabrin and Perry. I mean, the people here who are like Gavi's here, Ben's here, Ben Pierce is here. You can follow them on social. They'll have the lines. I'm just kind of doing
this is good.
Talking to you and trying to assess, and I'm not zeroed in on it. But that's what I saw.
This is the benefit of listening to our show.
Yeah, and I see Gensel out there with Hagel and Sorelli. So it almost looks like they're running the lines in practice today, how they started Game 2.
Let's get to David. He says, the Lightning are learning to do what needs to be done. If that makes them the villain, they're very comfortable with that. Anderson still hasn't answered for his disrespect, by the way.
Well, by disrespect, do you mean hitting Destu
I'm assuming that's
in the head?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what that is.
I mean, that may be what he's referring to. I don't know if we're going to see a player, quote-unquote, answer for that in a playoff series. I think Sabrin was trying, and Anderson was like, no, thank you.
He didn't want to. He didn't want to. And I get why he didn't want to get off the ice. You're taking
Anderson,
an integral part.
I've heard other people say it. Anderson may have, through 2 games, Anderson may be their most effective player to this point.
I don't think
that's
a couple
of goals, physical.
He's been everything you want.
Yep, absolutely.
He's been everything you want and more.
Trying to see if Destu is out here, and it's a little bit harder because, if he is, he's just in a regular jersey. So I'll try and monitor that.
We appreciate that
as we watch.
This is a question directed. This is a question directed at you, partner. Matt says, will Mish be wearing a Cooch jersey while in Montreal. Extra credit if he shushes the Habs fans. Now, I'll answer for my partner. There's no way he's wearing a jersey.
Yeah, I don't
That's
wear
just
a jersey.
not happening.
And I
Come
don't
on.
shoosh.
No.
Sometimes I get shooshed. When actually played this on the scoreboard, I kind of like how, I don't know if this is a John Franzone brainchild or not. John listens to the show too, so if John is listening, shout out to you, John.
Thank you, John.
I don't know if he listens every day.
Yeah.
He goes on. He has a
wouldn't
long commute if he commutes. Sometimes he just sleeps at the arena.
Where is he
when
coming
he's in the
from?
car, he listens.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Lightning have introduced this feature in this playoff year where they're going back and looking at kind of memorable playoff wins, and they had the Game 3 against the Canadiens where Johnson had the buzzer beater in 2015, but they also had 2015 Johnson scoring in overtime against Detroit in Game 4. The Lightning were down 2-1 in that series. They were down 2-0 in Game 4, coming off a shutout loss in Game 3. They hadn't scored a goal in 5.5 periods plus in the playoffs at Joe Louis Arena. And then Johnson scores for 2-1. Palat scores for 2-2. Johnson scores in overtime, and I go ballistic. And a fan threw a water bottle at me.
Did he really?
It was empty, and it missed. But
No, what
yes.
did you do when they threw it at you?
I didn't care. I was reacting to the
Yeah,
goal, and
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, oh,
whatever.
somebody just threw this at me. And at Joe Louis Arena, the press, it was almost like a press row. Like the fans were right underneath you.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably could have, if somebody wanted to, they could have like pulled themselves up right into the booth.
Unbelievable.
These arenas are a little bit different. Most of them
Yeah.
are different. The fans don't really have access to the the radio booth. But yeah, I have been known to
That's
be
a little insane.
annoying at times to
I think you're just
home
passionate about
teams
it.
if the Lightning are the road team and there's a dramatic
Get over
play.
it. Get over
Well, I
it.
think they
That's
were
what I
pretty-
would say.
They were more ticked off about the game than me,
Yeah.
but I was I shouldn't say it was an easy target because the guy missed, but
What year was that again? That was
2015, yeah.
Is that the last time the Red Wings made the playoffs?
2016. That was
2016.
their last year at the Joe, though, right? No, 2017 was their last year at the
Okay,
Joe.
that's right. I think you're right.
Anyway,
I think you're right.
they had a good team in 2015.
Yeah.
They still had Datsuk. They had Zetterberg. They had Cronwall after that too. Like they could have won that series. They stole game 1.
Yeah.
Speaking of a series in which the Lightning lost game 1 at home, won game 2, and then won the series. I mean, it's happened for them more than a few times. But they won game 1. Sorry, they lost game 1 that they should have won. I mean, the Red Wings, that was Peter Mrazek. He had a goalie steal.
I was going to ask you, who was the
Yeah,
netminder?
Mrazek
That
was the
makes
goal. He
sense,
was a
yeah.
younger guy then.
Yeah.
He was, prospect for Detroit. And then the Lightning pretty decisively won game 2. And then they go to Detroit, shut out in game 3, and they had to pull a rabbit out of the hat in game 4. Then they get shut out in game 5. They won game 6. I thought they deserved to win game 6 in Detroit.
Yeah.
And then they won game 7 at home on a Ben Bishop steal. So we're going to give each team one steal. Count up the other games. Like, Detroit did win game 3. They did win game 5. They should have won probably game 7, but they could have lost game 1, but they probably should have won game 4.
Yeah.
Like, I think over those 7 games, the Red Wings maybe didn't get as much what they deserved. Now, the games the Lightning won, like game 2, game 6, like they outplayed the Red Wings. But, the Red Wings outplayed the Lightning in game 3. They outplayed them in game 5. They outplayed them for 55 minutes in game 4.
That's a tough
And they outplayed them in
Yeah.
game 7.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Bishop was incredible in that game. That was the one where Coburn broke a 0-0 tie in the third. And the Lightning won 2-0.
Could be a
anyway,
a
going
goalie
back
steal.
and looking at
We love that,
old
though,
playoff
Bob.
series, yes, but the fans were asking about. I don't invite abuse from the fans, and I don't know. I'm not going to be wearing a Kucherov jersey.
No, I don't think
Kucherov, if he wants to shoosh the crowd, though, I
He
mean,
may.
we've seen him do that before.
He may. Andrew says the Bolts were like this from 2020 to 2022, and the Panthers then decided to get tougher. Now the Bolts are trying to regain that a bit. So we're still on that narrative.
Yeah,
a little
I
bit here.
think the Panthers elevated it, though. The Panthers were unlike most other teams in the NHL in the playoffs, certainly the last few years. I mean, that fan wrote about, thanks Rangers, thanks Bruins, thanks. Like, you can go through the list of the teams that the Panthers played and beat that came out of that series and being like, this team is really rubbing us the wrong way. I mean, the Rangers didn't like it. The Rangers lost a series to the Panthers. Toronto lost a couple of series to the Panthers. The Lightning lost a couple of series to the Panthers. Carolina lost a couple of series to the Panthers. Edmonton, of course, lost a couple of series to the Panthers. Most of those teams came out of those series and saying, like, this is a rough team that we just played, more than what we normally see in the playoffs.
Jim says, as a Canadian, it's getting annoying hearing Canadian media saying proud of the Habs for not taking any bull. So there's an honest assessment of the Canadian
I think the Canadians as a franchise, they've had tough guys. I mean, I remember they have a picture in Buffalo, actually. I think it's of Rob Ray. So in the Buffalo press box, there are all these huge pictures. It's a huge press box. Like, it runs the length of the rink at the KeyBank Center. And it's adorned with these pictures through the Sabres history. I love looking at these pictures. There was actually a picture of Andrechuk scoring a goal. I snapped a picture of it. It was at one end I hadn't been at. And earlier this year, I saw it, snapped a picture of it, sent it to him. I'm like, hey, look at that. One of your goals with Buffalo. So there's a picture of Rob Ray fighting a Canadian, Sylvain Blouin. I don't know if you remember him. He was tough. Blouin was tough. So the Canadians have had, Chris Nyland played for the Canadians. They've had tough guys. I think as a franchise, though, the Canadians through the years have been known as kind of like a skating team, a skill team, which they are, right? A goalie team, Carey Price, Ken Dryden, Jose Theodore, won the MVP one year as a goalie as well. So maybe they are saying they also felt, so this is something that we didn't really follow, or at least I didn't follow. I'm guessing you didn't follow. Really informed Lightning fans who followed other series last year maybe knew about this, but I was starting to see it. The Canadians were pushed around by Tom Wilson last year. So they maybe are having a reaction to this is not going to happen.
Yeah, good
again.
point. Good point. Yeah.
And Wilson taunted them in the series. So, I mean, they're kind of bringing this up because we're seeing, Hagel chirping, and, Wilson chirps. That's part of his game.
Wilson chirps and can back it up.
Well, sure.
And that's what makes him unique. Ranger 5253 says, would any of the Bolts media specifically ask either Marty or Anderson during media interviews why he won't answer the bell for his hit? Is there an unwritten rule or certain etiquette?
Well, if they were asked, I think Anderson would say, I was given a minor penalty on that play. Why should I have to answer for a minor penalty?
Yeah.
Now, it was a hit to the head, and he injured Destu. So you might say, well, that's why.
Yeah.
But, I mean, players don't have to, quote-unquote, answer the bell. And I think for Anderson, so like Anderson fought Carlisle, right? In the final regular season game, Carlisle got an instigation penalty. He may be saying, Anderson, like, I'll fight certain players, but I'm not going off the ice for 5 minutes for Sabourin. That's probably what you would hear from the Canadians.
And
they're like,
fair.
we don't want that trade.
That's fair. And I think that's the point.
The Canadians have zero, and I'm just speaking from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
The Canadians have great disdain for Scott Sabourin as a hockey player. I mean, I'm serious. I'm hearing this.
Why?
Why? Because, well, first of all, they saw him a bit when he was in Ottawa.
Okay.
The 1920 season, he spent most of the year in Ottawa.
2020 season.
Montreal.
2020 season.
By 2019, 2020. Yeah.
Okay,
Not the era of the Roaring 20s. Thank you, Greg. The 2019-2020 season. We don't have Scott Sabourin time traveler, from
that would be great.
Whatever they would have been.
They'd fit right in, maybe.
What were they? Were they the Ottawa
Generals?
Senators?
Were they the Ottawa Generals?
I don't think they were even in the league. They were in the league, and then by the 20s, they weren't. Anyway.
Yeah, that's funny.
The year that Sabourin spent most of the season in Ottawa, I think they played the Canadians, and there's this memory of Sabourin as just a guy who would fight. And I think that, like, Coop was even asked, you referenced it, like, why did you put Sabourin in the lineup? And it's just kind of like, is he just in to try and, like, fight in the playoffs? And we're saying, like, Sabourin has actually, done a good job for the Lightning. Coop was like, everybody feels a little bigger on the bench.
Yes,
like,
that was
an element of that.
Yes.
But if he couldn't play, if he couldn't do what they ask him to do when it is between the whistles, he would not be in the lineup. And I'll just say, like, I've kind of read it. I've heard these interview questions. I have had conversations with a couple of people on the Montreal side who are basically like, what is this guy even doing in
Why
the game?
is he playing?
And then they had the evidence of the
Yeah.
late penalty, which could have
Yeah.
been very, very costly. And, like, if that was their opinion, that he shouldn't have been in the lineup, and the Canadians had scored at the end of Game 2 to win it due to his penalty, they would have been, like, vindicated, right? Or their opinion would have been validated by that. So I think that they have not really seen, even though Sabrin played against the Canadians earlier this year and Jack Guy and he had that fight.
Yeah.
I think there is a perception that he is in for one reason and one reason only. And if that is the perception on the Montreal side too, meaning the bench, Anderson's like, I am not going to pull myself off the ice to fight this guy. It's not that I'm afraid of fighting. Why would I?
Sure.
I think that's probably what we would hear in a more politically correct way if they were actually asked on camera.
And I think
about
for
it.
people who are just following the Lightning closer this series, they see a journeyman who's basically been a guy in the AHL who has a lot of penalty minutes and hasn't had a lot of NHL experience. He comes up to a team who's very talented, and you would think, in theory, would be hard to make if you were a player of his skill set. And I think people put 2 and 2 together. They're trying to come up with 4 by saying, well, that's clearly because the Lightning feel they need to address that,
Right.
and he is the guy.
And just for the record, I disagree. I disagree with this sentiment. I think Sabrin has given the Lightning
Well, so you and I
valuable
know that.
minutes this
You
year.
and I,
yes.
and you and I, because we cover the team, we have watched Sabrin, and we have said, I actually think he's played his best hockey over the last 2 to 3 weeks. He's dangling with the puck. He's making smart decisions. He's keeping it simple. I mean, I think you're always going to have to understand he has the tendency to go over the line. And we saw the penalty he took in Game 2 towards the end of the third period. That was awful, for sure. But this is one of those where I think people who haven't seen Sabrin play, they look at his career stats, they look at how many games he's played in the NHL, they look at the Lightning, and they say, well, he's clearly here for this purpose. And you and I would say there's an element to it, but he's also earned his way onto this roster because he's played pretty well. But people don't want to acknowledge that. And so that's kind of where we are with that. The Wood 66 says, it looks like the Lightning are starting to get back to playing like the Tampa Bay Lightning. And now it's time to go on another win streak. Who is Harrison Madigan? I saw he was called up today.
He is a draft pick of the Lightnings. Yeah. So
He is
Harrison
starting
Madigan-
tomorrow. No.
Yeah, Harrison Madigan is a draft pick of the Lightning. I think that they called him up as a third goalie.
I think so.
Because we have Halverson getting ready to start the AHL series with
Yeah.
Syracuse. Just for the record, Madigan was out on the ice earlier with Hedman and Destu, but Johansson and Vasilevsky are out on the ice. I mean, I say Johansson. Johansson, the goalie in front
Where
of
is
me is not Vasilevsky. He's at the other end. Yeah, it's Johansson. He just made a save. I saw his pads, so I recognize his pads.
No, you're good.
What was the first part of that before the...
I
Oh,
think
he
the
thinks
Lightning
they're
are
going to go on a
getting
win
back.
streak?
Yeah.
Can I cue it up, Greg? Can we just get a button to hit? Don't be a prisoner of the moment.
We can.
Every game is its own entity.
Yeah, you're right.
Can the Lightning carry some swagger and confidence into Game 3 based on how well they played in the second half of Game 2 or the third period and overtime of Game 2? You hope so, but the Canadians can also say, look at how well we skated at the beginning of Game 2. We had them back on their heels. If we'd been able to finish some plays, that game would have been over. Let's bring that into Game 3. That's why it's a series, right?
We have a special person. All these listeners are special. An interesting connection to a Lightning player coming up. I want to get to his comments. But Zekel says, has Kuch been shooting more when he has the puck? I think he was looking for maybe to shoot a little bit more in Game 2. It felt
Maybe.
like. But
I don't have the stats.
I don't have the
open.
stats either.
I think in Game 1 he finished with 5 shots. The Lightning had 10 power play shots. So that might have been part of it. And certainly he had 1 shot at least in Game 2. He scored on a wraparound. I don't know. I think that he's been just, I guess I just think he's been doing what he normally does. He will pass when he enters the offensive zone, and then if the puck comes back to him, he will shoot.
Yeah.
He doesn't usually just carry it in and shoot. and he's been consistent. That's what I've seen from him in this series. He's not carrying it in and just shooting. He's carrying it in off the rush, looking to make a play, and sometimes the puck comes back to him, and that's when he shoots.
Partner, how about this? Look who's listening to our show. Eddie Gonsalves said, hey, this is Gage's uncle from Vancouver Island, British Columbia. What do you think of the move to put him with Gordon James? Looked good.
Well,
thank you, Eddie.
Yes, Uncle Eddie, based on what I
Eddie.
saw today, Gonsalves is back with Point and Kucherov. Now, what does that mean for tomorrow? I have no idea. But look, even if that line is not put back together for the start of Game 3,
yeah,
and there may be some considerations here that Coop is thinking about and his coaching staff is thinking about that we are not, based on the fact that the Lightning are the road team and they want to build a lineup to handle whatever matchups the Canadians may throw at them. It's good to know that Coop has this in his back pocket, and he can put those three guys together, and maybe they can, recapture what they showed in Game 2.
We appreciate that, though, Uncle Eddie. Keep it going.
And I said in yesterday's show, I think James and Gonsalves have chemistry. I mean, it's
I agree with you. I like
you don't
that.
always see two players mesh.
Yeah.
Like Hagel and Cirelli do mesh, right?
Yeah.
We've seen other players. I mean, I'm not even talking about like Kucherov and Stamkos. Like they certainly meshed.
Well, remember the triplets. The triplets back the one year
Palat
it
and
was
Johnson
clicking.
meshed.
It
did.
It clicked.
So I think Dominic James and Gage Gonsalves have chemistry together. We've seen them together with different third guys throughout the year. I mean, James scored his first goal in Vegas on a line with Bjorkstrand and Gonsalves, and that line had a great game. So that's something to just kind of keep in mind. We may not see them a lot or a little. I mean, we may see them a lot. We may see them a little. We may see them not at all moving forward in this playoff year. But next year, let's see how that dynamic plays out.
The thing with Gage and James that is interesting and why they are so valuable to a team is because they can adapt to different styles of play. And they can skate. So both of those players are skilled.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to put them in a top 6, you could. But if you also wanted to put them on a third line, they could be a pain in the butt to play against because I do think they are pretty responsible defensively, and I think they've got a little bit of that giddy-up that's annoying to play against.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think they give Cooper flexibility to play them up and down the lineup and with different people. So Jake says, question for both of you guys, are you still wanting to see more from Brayden Point? And what do you attribute to what's happening? To me, it feels like lack of confidence.
He's a little frustrated. I think that's fair. When he's had a chance to maybe get off a shot in a dangerous area, at least in this series, there's been a Montreal stick appearing out of nowhere to kind of get in the way. So unclear if, that stick hadn't been in the way. Would he have gotten the shot off? Would it have been a dangerous shot? Would it have gone in? I think that at points this year, he's looked like Brayden Point, particularly. So he's had 2 injuries, and I remember he came back from the first injury, and it was one of his earlier games after coming back from an injury here. And he scored early in the game. That was actually when the Lightning had lost 4 straight in regulation to start December, and it was the second half of a back-to-back. They had come in from Toronto the night before, and Point broke free and scored on an in-alone chance and was off and running, as were the Lightning, who won 6-1. And that started Point's best offensive stretch this year, from basically the second week of December to the second week of January, and then he got hurt in Philadelphia. So since he's come back from the leg injury, he has not showed that as consistently. But, tomorrow's a new day, and let's see how he does.
I have no idea. I've got to think even for a player as accomplished as Brayden Point, when you don't have as much success and you're in and out of the lineup for various reasons, mainly injury, your confidence can be shaken, even somebody who's a world-class player. So that is the 30,000-foot view without knowing the particulars. I've got to think it's a matter of just he's probably really frustrated of how the year has gone, and maybe his confidence isn't as high.
And if you lack a little bit of confidence and you are in that situation, it does add a smidge. It can add a smidge of hesitancy to your game.
It can.
And if you have a smidge of hesitancy against a team, at least against Montreal, that will get in the lanes, it's going to affect your ability to get your shot on net.
Tonight, enjoy some Reif Rum, smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Reif Rum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Reif Rum by name. Go Bolts, and please enjoy responsibly. Let's get to...
Thank you, fans. Lots of great discussion questions today.
I do. Bill says somebody other than Hagel and Cooch need to start scoring.
All right, we're talking about need. The Lightning have gotten a goal from Moser. They've gotten a goal from Radish in the series.
They have.
I mean, as long as you finish with one more than the other team, that's all that matters.
Well, we've only played 2 games, too, so let's give this a little time. We might.
Right. And honestly, I mean, you can fall on either side of the coin here. I mean, people who hear me talk a lot on the show know which side of the coin I tend to fall on. It's more about keeping the puck out than putting the puck in. So the need is more about limiting chances and being really solid defensively than having scoring up and down the lineup. But we hear this. It's like, well, this team is getting too much scoring from this one player or these couple of players, and what if they dry up? Well, if you win a game 2-1, you don't have to worry about a lot of scoring, right? If you're giving up 3-4, even if you get a fair amount of scoring, it can be hard to win.
I would agree with that. Zebra says, could you see Marty changing up his lines for Game 3? Considering Caulfield and Suzuki still have no 5-on-5 points, could we see some line mixing to try and get them a spark? So let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a good point. I have not watched all of Montreal's games this year, so I do not know how often Marty does switch up the lines. I've got to think with that line, you want to give them a little bit of leeway here, particularly on home ice where you may have an advantage to dictate the matchups. If it's not working by Game 3, then maybe you mix things up. But I have no reference in terms of, and maybe the Canadian fans who are listening, have they done a lot of that this year?
When the Canadians had some struggles, it was really in the early part of the year. I mean, when they were losing games in the second half of the year, it was like a short streak, and then they started winning again, and that line was their best line this year. That line had a terrific year. I don't know. I think that the first thing that would happen before you switch the lines would be to see how this line does against a different matchup, which is kind of what you talked about.
Yeah, that's what I would say, but
there is some chatter about the Kirby Dach situation,
that if he sits,
well, just they have Joe Veleno. They have another guy too. I'm trying to remember who it is, who's a bottom forward. Like, they could make a change and put in somebody else. Let's say if they wanted to remove Dach, because he kind of was in the crosshairs, not so much from the Canadians, but from the Montreal media. You talked about that after Game 2. We'll see.
Alex says, I don't see how Bjorkstrand coming back would be anything other than bad for the team.
Well, let me take this as a two-parter. First of all, I don't think, based on what I saw today, admittedly, as I was talking with you, Greg, on the air, and I checked social, I didn't see that the lines were posted, so it's possible I missed something. But it appeared that Bjorkstrand is not going to be in Game 3. But if he were to come into a playoff game, to say that it would be anything but bad, this guy can shoot the puck as well as, wouldn't say any player in the NHL. Yeah. He shoots the puck better than most players in the NHL. And if you look at his playoff history, I mean, that year that Seattle got to the second round, he had 4 goals.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's been a tough year for him. But to say that, this would definitely be a negative for the Lightning is, I think, a step too far.
I think that somebody referenced point in the confidence. I think you could say that for Bjorkstrand.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate for him, because I think he was playing well right before his injury last year, and Eric pointed this out from LightningInsider.com, Eric Erlinson, that maybe he, I don't want to say hasn't fully recovered from that injury, but it was a pretty significant injury.
Right.
And maybe it's going to take him another year to get back to where he was before. Probably won't be with the Lightning at that point, but I hope for his sake, wherever he ends up, he gets back to being the guy the Lightning thought they were getting when they acquired him. Because I do think he was brought in, partner, to specifically address an area they thought was a concern, which was depth scoring, but also a guy who could play on the power play, chip in, and maybe even be in a top 6 and not lose a beat.
I mean, players who get to the NHL can shoot the puck. They can. Yeah. I mean, if you or I were in puck. However, there's a difference once you get to the NHL between certain players and how they shoot the puck.
Right.
And Oliver Bjorkstrand can score goals from areas on the ice, beating goalies clean, that only a handful of other players in the NHL can do. That's his greatest strength. So he has value. Right now he's on the outside looking in. If he gets into a playoff game, the best thing he can do for the Lightning is to get a shot off.
Yeah.
And get it on net.
I would agree.
Because it can go in.
There's no doubt about that. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this show. We could go on and on. We'll take a few
We have a
more.
show tomorrow. And we're going to have a show Saturday.
And Sunday.
My co-host
Do we have one Sunday
still
too?
to be determined,
Yeah. So
that's a game day. We have a Saturday off day that'll be a recap
right.
of Game 3.
But we're going live tomorrow, correct?
We're going
Just so
live
our
tomorrow.
Fans, so our fans know. And we'll take more of your questions. It'll be a game day. We'll get that going. And
You'll
be
think
with
we're
Patty
probably
Maroon?
looking at. I'm going to be solo.
Oh, you're
for games
solo?
3 and 4.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
By the way, happy birthday to Pat Maroon today.
Good for him.
I did not remember today was his birthday, but Steve Versnick reminded me.
Was that on the Daily Strike podcast?
No, he told me.
Okay.
Prior to that, I should have remembered because Maroon had a few. Actually, Maroon had one April where the Lightning nobody was playing because we were in the pandemic lockout.
Gotcha.
And then the following year, I think we were still in the regular season. It was April 2021. 2022, we would have been in the playoffs during his birthday. Anyway, tomorrow I am expecting it's going to be an optional. So you may see me at the hotel rather than the rink.
That's fine.
We'll see. Yeah.
And you know what? I'll throw it out there to our audience. We usually get national guests as well. If there's any national pundit they want on, we'll try to effort. If there's somebody you're interested in hearing their thoughts about the Lightning, let us know. Hit us up on at Bolts Radio. We have all the connections. It's just a matter of who we want to reach
Sometimes
out
the
to.
connection is a little stronger. Sometimes a little weaker.
That's right.
It's like, what'd you
It
say?
just depends. Yeah.
When do you want me to come on? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Wait a minute.
What? Who?
Yeah.
Who?
Click.
Yeah. No,
Nobody
we never
really
get
has
clicks.
click anymore.
No,
but
we don't.
You know what I mean.
I got you. All right, partner. Enjoyed it today. Great discussions, and we'll do it again
Enjoy the hockey
tomorrow.
tonight.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun for
Yes.
sure. Thanks to Steve Versnick for producing. Thanks to all of you for listening. We appreciate you guys. I'm Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch right here on Lightning Radio.